this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketia, it's in, it's four. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Arsenal Podcast, aka the Carl Jenkinson of Arsenal Podcast. My name is Mike Hers, your host, and today, well, boys, Champions League has officially been confirmed for next season. Third straight year in a row for Mikel Arteta, so that's a plus. We're going to try to look at some pluses. We had a whole show that was going to be balanced out with the inclusion of Christian, and unfortunately, he had to drop out very late, and now it's just left with Kelly and I bickering and agreeing with each other on everything. I'm gonna try to do the devil's advocate thing here, Kelly. And so if you don't think I have split personalities, is what I'm telling you, because I know that I agreed largely with a lot of things that you said online with the last few hours, but I'm gonna take my cap off, put on my host cap, and attempt to make this a little bit of a more balanced conversation. I know we got BX Gooner in the live chat. I know he is on the not so happy with Mikel Arteta side, so he will bring balance to the live chat. We're going to have an overall chat. I don't know if we're going to break down games here, but we'll talk about some key incidents between Liverpool and Newcastle. Fact that we qualified for Champions League, which is, matter of fact, believe it or not, a positive thing. And of course, how did this Euro League final, if you want, the Europa League final, watching Spurs win a trophy, and we're going to try to bring some calmness and some balance to the conversation, see how some Arsenal supporters feel versus us. Let's get this show on the road, as always. Kelly, welcome back, dude.
Yeah, I think this is one of those when we're kind of languishing without an accomplishment to attach our anxieties and stresses to. Stuff hits us different. Like some things will happen, Mike, and I think we do a good job in the back. It's like, wow, I didn't really feel that when you kind of think you would. And today it's like, this sucked. This really sucked a lot today. And I think it was had very little to do with the match itself, which was, dreadful. And we'll get into that specifically kind of, but it's just, I feel like I'm floating around with, and I don't have a lot of goods. The water's kind of warm and comfortable, but I really don't have a lot to hold on to. And so it feels like I'll just kind of slowly fade off into the current and drown. So I don't know. It's a weird feeling today. And I feel like we're going to have a fair bit of weird feelings going into next season where we kind of don't know what. I feel like I'm having an existential crisis of what this is all about. I guess what are we actually supposed to do, and what can we actually batter the teams around us with? Because there's going to be 10 teams playing in the European spots from England now, and everybody wins the trophy but us. So I don't know. What's the point of it all?
It's going to get worse next week when Chelsea wins the Conference League. I don't see them not pulling that off, but it's going to get slightly worse. I will say just. While we're on the subject slightly, and I bring this up a lot, how we're the butt of all the jokes and not United specifically this season. Yeah, I don't know how they're not the butt of jokes versus us. I'm absolutely baffled on how that's working out, but we'll touch upon that and how we're feeling about Spurs winning a trophy at the end of the podcast. Right now, let's talk. Here's something that we haven't really given an opinion on because we're doing kind of one podcast every 2 weeks now that the season is effectively over and we're going into the summer. And we've never had a massive habit of doing this daily content and news type of things. Trent Alexander-Arnold, you know this well, Kelly, that it's always been my belief that in modern football, it is borderline near impossible for a star player to leave a club and not be hated and attacked on social media. Maybe it's just a social media thing. I don't know, but I can't remember a player leaving when they were still good in contributing to a team and not get battered. But watching Trent being an academy kid get booed by his own fans, Michael Owen himself spoke out about it, saying how all the good things he achieved with Liverpool, and when he went back and he got booed, he said he never forgot about that. So warranted, unwarranted, what are your feelings towards that? And of course, we'll talk about how the online fan base has hijacked their player of the season reward, of course.
Yeah, I think I like you. I'm not super surprised. I think it is a lot of sour grapes because again, he's one of our. It's basically the equivalent of Saka leaving on a free after his next contract. So if we can kind of put that hat on, again, somebody came through the academy who really was there through kind of a pretty flat period, a pretty low period for them, and then was an important player throughout. And it's kind of one of those things too where he kind of fell out of favor when the world figured out that he doesn't defend so good. And he was in and out of the team a little bit and was being played in central midfield because of his defensive deficiencies for country. I think there's probably a little bit of extra sauce on it for Liverpool fans because they feel like they stuck by him through that. That being said, I don't think this is a big surprise. Like we've known this was going to happen for basically like 9 months now. So them reacting petulantly in a season where they unexpectedly won the league and kind of walked the league is a little bit strange to me. I guess I fall in the camp with I get why they're pissed, and I know I don't expect them to be magnanimous. Like this isn't like Ipswich. Like this isn't a club that has the luxury of just being super hugsy and kissing. Like they actually like want to win stuff, and they actually do win stuff. So they're pretty cutthroat, I guess. But I don't know. I'm in two minds, but I guess I wouldn't expect anything less, but it would have been nice to see more for him. And I guess I don't really give a shit. And frankly, if it makes Liverpool fans, so hopefully they feel kind of, hopefully in some way this can taint their season because holy shit, have they been absolute fucking assholes online. So hopefully this makes them a little bit sad and they can cry tears into their big trophy that we don't know anything of.
Well, yeah, I can't relate. You'll never sing that. I'm gonna put the first little prickish comment in here because you compared it to Saka.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this: Liverpool has won things during Trent Alexander's period. So when a lot of people leave teams to be like, I'm gonna go play for Real Madrid, they're a huge club and they win things.
Yep.
Like Saka leaving, I don't know if that changes my perspective. Whether like does it change the online perspective in which like, well, he wasn't winning fuck all here, so he had to go. Do you think any percentage of the online fan base, do you think they'll cut him any level of slack, or it's still a fuck out of here? We didn't get a penny for you.
I suppose if he does an extension and we go 4 more years and don't win him anything, I think there probably would be like, yeah, fuck this shit, go young fella. I think that we would be so deep in our cups and we'd be so self-hating that we'd probably like throw him a parade on his way to Heathrow.
Fair enough.
I mean, I guess suppose for some of us would say traitor, fuck you lost England, the penalty. Like it would just dredge up all of his worst moments. But I think there'd be a fair few of us even-minded people. It's like, yeah, man, I get it. Like we could have sold you for 100 million and we decided to hold on to you for some reason and try to win something, and then we failed. So, I mean, good on you, son, I guess. So I think for Arsenal, it's different just because, like, the degree to which we're trophy dodging right now is pretty remarkable. And so, like, I think we wouldn't fault a long-standing player, at least in this very, very, like, my skin is very tender right now. So I think just about I could understand just about anybody being exasperated by the state of affairs right now. And so I wouldn't judge him a ton. Again, it all depends on how things play out, but it's Trent. He's going to fit in really well in Madrid because half of the Liga is absolute horse shit and is like League One level. So he'll just be sitting back there and not have to make a defensive intervention and just be diming balls into really good strikers. So I'm sure he's going to have a great time, and he'll probably be on like 400 grand a week, and whatever cousin is parading as an agent or representative is getting 10 million too. So everybody wins besides Liverpool, but fuck him.
He's going to absolute love it. Is upgrade on atmosphere, upgrade on ladies, upgrade on weather. I mean, what is there to lose at this point going over there? So props to him. I mean, enjoy your career. Hopefully we don't face you in Champions League next season. That would be favorable for us. And it's just something that we have to live with. So we got the 2-2 there. We're down a man. Merino seems knackered. Again, just recapping real quick. You and I are in agreement on this one, and this one I won't push back too much, but there is always this type of goal that we concede, and the type of goal that I say we concede is Raya plays a pass to the defender or a midfielder. Said midfielder defender doesn't know what to do with the ball. We concede, and it's always been split with people that still don't quite 100% are on board with the David Raya thing versus Ramsdale. I think that's the majority of the split, but if you already have a way of looking at him and have your criticism of him, you're going to be like, what the hell you're doing? You should have punted the ball up the road. So just by play, I know that you and I agree on the idea that is our play. That is what we do 99% of the time. Do you think, here comes the question, does Mikel Arteta wag his finger at Raya if he does, let's say, boot it up the field 50 yards?
I think Raya does what he's told to do. You'll evidence by some games that he'll absolutely wallop it long all the time, and other times he just will continue to play the ball forward. I honestly think it's one of those things where, and this is maybe one of the big criticisms of Arteta, is that there's not a lot of situational riffing. Like, Raya's here and Raya's doing what he's doing because he's doing what he's told to do. And I think that's why in this particular situation, like the Raya pile on, when it's like, you shouldn't give it to Mourinho, it's like, okay, well, that's what he's supposed to do, and that's what everybody's being instructed to do. And it's like, at some point, he can't also kick the ball to himself and then receive it on the half turn. Like, at some point, if he misplays a pass, sure, but if you're passing it to a professional midfielder in a position where he's expecting to get the ball and he just like falls over himself, at some point, can we stop blaming Raya for that? But it is funny because I know I've always liked him, so I probably take up for him a little bit more. And all the Raya outers will just, anytime it's like, hey, that pass was a little too hard for that professional footballer, and that professional footballer had to take 17 touches and take a again Mikel Merino turn that takes like as long as it does for me to fucking corner back my car into a spot. That's how long it takes him to turn with the ball, and that's somehow Raya's fault. Like, I think a lot of it in our moments of weakness and our moments of frustration, we just fall back into our priors. And I think the reaction is probably, probably don't pass him the ball there, I guess. But on the other side is, dude, it's like, Marino, you knew that you were going to get that pass. It's how all the patterns you play him constantly. Can you just like take a normal professional footballer touch? If you need to dump the ball out of bounds, you can do that instead of just comically turning the ball and handing it over. So like, there's almost no mistakes or no errors leading to goals that are directly one player than another. It's usually a culmination of things. Like, very rarely is it just turn and kick the ball into your own net. But I also caution a lot of people, like, all that stuff that Raya does that frustrates you mildly, like Ramsdale did it way worse and more frequently, in addition to him just being on the fucking moon a lot of the time too. So like, I'm sure Ramsdale is going to play in the Premier League again in the bottom 5. He's probably going to get relegated again. If you ever want to have, if you ever want to have good memories of him, just like watch him play somewhere else. He's not very good. And the fact that we were able to get like 25 million from a terrible Southampton team that was not even trying to stay up this year is pretty much like Edu's last miracle. So like, I don't know. I feel like the Joan Garcia thing, I don't understand though at all. And we can get to that this off. I don't want to do that today, but we can get to it this off season when we inevitably sign him for 30 million instead of a striker. So that'll be fun.
Absolutely. Ramsdale will probably, if I'm a gambling man, I think Aston Villa is going to try to purchase him because
they're going to flip Emmy to Saudi for like 700 million and then
more or less, give or take a euro or two. But I mean, he had all the, he was crying. It was a sad farewell. That was not the last game of the season, but it was the last game at home. So I could totally see. I think Ramsdale is good enough, definitely, to play in the first English Premier League division. So he will continue being in first division. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe not bottom 5, Kelly, but I do think that a mid-table team will pick him up. Like I'm trying to remember how old Fabianski is, for example, for West Ham. Maybe there. I that's my bet. I'm willing to say he ends up with either Aston Villa or West Ham, unless I'm grossly mistaken at the goalkeeper that they're currently playing. Yeah, that's a fair shot for me. I think on the Ramsdale front. Moving a little bit forward, Newcastle game. Miles Lewis-Skelly once again performing great. These little intangibles, man. You cannot try to look at the little positives. We don't have a shitload, at least I don't feel like within the league, we don't have a crap load of like feel good moments like we did last season or the season before, right? The 3-2 Bournemouth, all these games, all these last minute memories that we had in a season or two ago. This season, it kind of sucked, right? In many games, all the red cards were very frustrating. A lot of calls that didn't go our way were really frustrating. And it seemed that like game day 3, game day 4, whenever the hell we played Brighton and we got that red card, it's almost like we could have anticipated, like, okay, this might not be our league. This might not be our year if shit's starting off this bad so soon. But him winning the header and laughing in the face of Dan Burns was comical. And I sometimes wonder how we end up in this whole. I feel like we have the most rivalry. And this might be extraordinarily ignorant and just social media based.
Yeah.
But I swear to you, dude, like Newcastle supporters hate us online. Aston Villa hates us online. West Ham, ever since Rice, hates us online. Every top 6 hates us. And I'm like, what the actual fuck, man? Like, I don't know where this Newcastle/Arsenal rivalry came from, but we finally beat them, and we hadn't beaten them in a really long time. And coincidentally, it was a very important game. Depending, your mileage may, vary based on how highly you want to celebrate. Celebrate's the wrong word. How highly you want to value qualifying for the Champions League for the good of the club, and whether you believe the powers to be, the people above, up on top, as Mikel Arteta said, if they were going to do the right things with that Champions League money and stature that it brings you, you're not thinking about it. But little feel good moment. Absolutely lovely goal from Declan Rice once again, bailing us out. What are you feeling about this whole thing, man? Like, are you just happy that we didn't get any? I'm so dumb. I was going to say you're happy that we walked out of the season without any more injuries. And then Saliba went out at halftime with his hamstring. So Timber didn't start. He's going through a surgery. But is there any other redeemable thing that you could pull from this Newcastle game other than the qualification and the Declan Rice goal?
I think it's super important that we didn't have to do anything against Southampton in the last match. Like, especially now in the wake of Spurs win, like all the other stuff that's happened, like not having to really do anything meaningful in that last match to get top 4, I think means something. BX, I don't want to talk about basketball either. Like, search SGA flop and see what I was watching with the Timberwolves playing against Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who is the most insufferable basketball player to watch this side of Harden. I'm actually arguing with an Arsenal fan online right now that he says because Anthony Edwards, like 2 months ago, shot 17 free throws in the game, I can't complain about Shea flopping and engineering about 50 foul calls in the game. So this is the level of online discourse I'm dealing with, and I probably should just drink by myself. I need to go back to the cabin I was at fishing last week and drink by myself away from the internet, because all of the people are fucking insane.
With no cell phone connection, preferably for you.
Just like all of these, everybody online, it's everybody has the worst shit sports opinion until I talk to the next person, and it's somehow remarkably worse. Anyway, really, this is one of those things where it's enough stuff has gone wrong and is continuing to go wrong with like personnel and everything. Just getting this over the line was a really big deal. Like, minimum expectation achieved. Stan Kroenke's yearly erection can now happen, that he was able to spend as little money as possible and still reach top 4. So I'm sure he's thrilled. Josh is excited. Really, in all seriousness, though, besides like just absolutely deadpanning the club, we had to get top 4. The less pressure on the last day, the better. Everybody's dropping like flies. People can barely run. Ben White was like doing hamstring stretches in the middle of the match while the ball was in play because there's nobody else. Just win the match. And I think we got a little bit of luck and a little bit of fortune. And we had, it's funny, Mike, you know how I talk about like if we buy difference makers, like they win matches.
Yeah.
One of those, the really expensive guy that we bought a couple years ago that like won the Real Madrid tie for us single-handedly. It kind of won this tie single-handedly too.
Crazy how that works, huh?
Hey man, like it's we live in a wild world where having really good players has positive outcomes, and just doing the internal solutions things doesn't so much. So I don't know. Good for Declan Rice. He's been our best player this year. It was nice to have him have that moment. And whatever. It's fine. I'm happy it happened, and I'm really happy that I don't have to sweat even the most. Like, I guess I just watched Borussia Dortmund like last year. All they had to do was like draw a fucking terrible team and win the title, and they at home, and they lost somehow, and they were down like 3-0 20 minutes into the match. So like, it doesn't take a whole lot for me to be in a position where the unimaginable thing happens. So like, getting out of that territory where it's like, all they have to do is beat Southampton away, the second worst club in the history of the Premier League, to have all of a sudden have Stuart Armstrong or whichever Armstrong plays for them have a cunt one from 70 yards out, upper 90, and then break William Saliba's leg on the way through, and then it would arrive about at my expectations for how seasons end. So I'm happy that it's already over the line, and now we can just go fuck around and pummel those shit teams before they go down again. So it's fine.
Yeah, just kind of previewing Southampton a little. If there was ever a time to play the kids, whatever the kids is, I don't think he's going to go full, Adeyemi, but I do think, I don't know what happened with Onaneri. And I do think that like he should get a game. Call me fucking crazy. Yeah. There's two.
Well, that's our starting center forward next year, Mike. You got to understand.
Yes, absolutely. So, I guess I feel comfortable saying like Sterling should play this game, right? Just to not continue to whittle down the players that we do still have under contract. Trossard hasn't signed his contract. I guess he can play. Waneri hasn't played for a very long time. Play him, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, Jorginho, I know you said goodbye. Jorginho and Tierney, I know you guys said goodbye to the Emirates, but hey, if you could play one last 90 minutes, I would appreciate that considerably. So just, we're on holy shit mode. The squad has been dwindled down throughout the entire season. No more Saliba, no more Timber on top of the existing ones. So I don't know what kind of makeshift defense we're going to have during that game, but my goodness, it's absolutely incredible. But it's good to have it secured in the bag, because if you're looking at the third through 7, I think they're all on 66 points. One of them can still potentially miss out on Champions League. Like, we talk about Newcastle and how that could potentially influence our transfer market is the idea of Isaac not playing Champions League if they were to be forced to sell him. Right. Yep. So, and that's being wildly optimistic of the board and wildly optimistic of things going the right way. We understand that Everton isn't exactly top of the game, but I could tell you they're far better than what a lot of people assumed they were going to be going into the season.
Especially with Moyes has really done a good, like in all seriousness, has really done a good job of steadying the ship there. That was always a team that had enough good players and enough structure to not be bad. And having kind of dour, pragmatic managers helps a roster like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't put anything past Everton. Like they're, if you look at the talent pool, like they're towards the middle of the bottom of the middle, which means that they're not shit and they have some good players and they can do something. And they have like a good goalkeeper and good defenders too, so they can still stink out a game with the best of them. So, yeah, I mean, BX is right though. Like, this is a really, really interesting table because 3 through 7 are separated by like a point or two. Like, that's pretty wild, and it's nice to not be in that fucking muck because like if we lost to Newcastle, we'd be basically in that muck too. So just being able to not do that, and again, I just hope that everybody goes for it, and terrible things happen to every team, honestly, besides us.
I love that. Terrible thing happens to everybody but us.
Yeah, multiple terrible things, in fact. That'd be great.
Fair. Yeah, I know. I'm relieved. I did kind of share this sentiment with you where we're saying that, like, okay, believe what you want to believe. Injuries played a part. I do find it humorous that, Arsenal fans, the detectives that they are, pulled up a old clip from Jurgen Klopp, talking about, it was a pre-game versus Liverpool versus Chelsea. And he was talking about all the injuries he had. And he was complaining that he had 3 injuries in defense and how all those injuries under one area of the pitch could really heavily impact. And then he said, hey, listen, Arsenal deserve to be in first. And he goes along and praise Arsenal, say they're playing wonderful football. But then it goes, but take away 5 of their players. And the comments were it just resurfaced the clip, and the comments were just full of old Liverpool accounts saying spot on. This is exactly what it is, and full of rival, including Arsenal supporters saying fucking get over it. Everybody has injuries.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes I enjoy the tribalism that exists within football, and that's kind of why I've taken the stance of when people are like, Chris isn't here, right? But Chris, I would use him as an example in this circumstance. He uses way too much time, or way too much time trying to debate people on this online. And I'm like, dude, you're arguing with like a 14-year-old right now. They're not going to see it your way. They're not going to look at this in an intellectually honest way and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. If we had 6 injuries, that would have an impact. They're not going to ever admit that. But if you put their club in that specific circumstance, the entire script changes. And the entire script changes with Arsenal supporters too, because we would immediately go back to LOL. And this always happens, right? Because when everybody's in the shit, it's the same thing when PGMOL screws a team. Everybody's like, haha, it happened to you. But then when it happens to us, you're like, this is the worst thing ever. And that kind of happens with injuries too. That what happens now is we got zero compassion at all this entire season. And if Liverpool starts off next season with 3 key injuries and we see one of their fans saying anything about the injuries, we are going to absolutely search their profile and just copying and pasting shit that they said, laughing at Mikel Arteta, laughing at Arsenal. So interesting. But I will say it's nice to go into this weekend not giving an absolute fuck about the results. I don't think Manchester City is going to, win and overcome a 11-goal deficit at this point.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think Southampton is going to put 5 past us. I don't think City has it in them to put 8 past their team. So we're fairly safe in second. I will say, I mean, Kelly, I may be just daydreaming here, but I could only imagine the online discourse. There you go. Discourse if Arsenal dropped to 3rd in the final game of the season.
That would somehow be an indication that Arsenal should. I think I saw a fan post earnestly that had like 36 likes or something that Arsenal should be banned from the Champions League because we didn't win the Champions League this year. That was a real thing on a Liverpool thing, and like 38 people or 36 people liked it.
Absolutely, that's disgusting in so many different ways.
And I said, why?
And that's the one where you just got ignored, right? After the why.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, that's your thing is always prescient, right? Where it's like you're arguing with a 14-year-old or somebody who has the cognitive capacity of a 14-year-old, where it's just, I'm here to pew you with my little finger guns and wait for my other pews to come back and like my silly post. But you can't, there's no point in doing it. And it makes you way more mad because you're actually trying to say why. And they just have nothing. Like, I don't know. I think that's maybe like, what we need as like very, very deeply engaged, like very online Arsenal fans, we need some kind of a win because we haven't had one of those in like 5 years in the middle of COVID. We don't have anything to hang on to when the cheapest, most like puddle deep people troll something in front of us. We can't really say anything. And it's really hard because you can make a compelling argument, but unless you have a zinger, nobody gives a shit. And like we have no zinger. We're like all of our we're playing comedy sets now where we have some good jokes, but it takes us like 10 minutes to run through them. And so in a 60-minute stand-up special, we have 6 jokes. And if we want a trophy, we have like 50 zingers that we can just blast and keep people rolling and laughing. And we just have nothing to hold on to at all. And I think I guess that's my very maybe in the stadium it's different, but like it's, I don't know. I feel like I keep bringing this conversation down to the fucking Eeyore level, but
no, it's like, okay. It's where we're headed, and I guess we're going to talk about Berta a little bit, but we'll put a pin in it and talk about it last, just to have this conversation. And again, you and I are very similar right now, and we talk about this, and I will say this: it's kind of refreshing to hear Mikel Arteta say it out loud himself. And I don't think it's the first time, but it's the first time I paid that much attention. But even he's saying, and the players are saying, trophies are coming, it's going to happen. And even Arteta said during a post-match interview saying, we have to win it. We have to hold something. And it's just that, Kelly.
Mhm.
I want to senselessly, no context reply with a picture of our players holding up a fucking league title.
Yeah.
I want to be a dick. I want to act like a 14-year-old dickhead online too for my peers to give me all the 36 likes. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have it, Kelly, and it's so fucking frustrating, which leads us in to today's game, Manchester United versus Spurs. We spoke about this a little bit earlier where I said I was going to say, let's see how this happens, right? And we all anticipated that we were going to get bashed, right? No matter the outcome, we thought we're going to see a bunch of online comments about how even Spurs, even United have a title and Arsenal do not. Now, I said it last season, last podcast, and I'm going to say it this podcast. They did not have a better season than us. I stand by that. I no matter how frustrated I am to know that they finally have one, they get to say that they won a European trophy. We know the context. We know that it's a lesser competition this year than it was when we participated.
It's instructive to see the list of teams that Spurs beat going into it, because it's like the heel of your shoe of teams. You haven't heard of half of them that they beat to actually get here.
Absolutely. Like, it mattered. I was looking at the list and I couldn't name you the country and about 5 or 6 of those teams actually came from. And I'm, you know me enough.
Yeah.
I'm fairly decent at geography, but football teams wise, I've never heard them. I've never heard of these teams. So, you know, it's
Bodo Glimt is literally one of the best teams that the last team they played, and one of the best teams they played. Like, Bodo Glimt plays on like a plastic field in Norway, I think, or Sweden. Norway. So like, I think one of the most painful things about this, Mike, is that the Europa League is still kind of the Europa League to people because the format just changed this year, which is like there's no Champions League teams that parachute in anymore. Yeah. And basically the Champions League teams parachuting in really increased the quality of that competition. And a lot of times those were the teams that were represented deep into it, even into the finals and winning it. Yes. And removing that basically meant that it was rich English clubs there, and then some like also rans from out the continent, and that was kind of the Europa League. So for the competition itself was probably great to have like Bodo Glimt and like Bilbao, who's been bad La Liga team, in the semifinals with a chip chair and chance. But like the 15th and 16th best teams in Premier League absolutely fucking massacred those two teams in the semifinals, and I think it shows just the difference in quality and the difference in budget. And that disparity is really laid bare. And yeah, but also like for everybody who like watched this match, this is a fucking horrible match. And it was not a mystery as to how bad both of these teams were. And it is one of those things where you go, it's like, oh my God, one of these fucking horrible teams. Like, they really are this bad. I think the stats were, Mike, that Spurs had 3 attempts on goal. Not on goal, 3 shot attempts the entire match. Yeah, 1 on target. Sense. And they did not attempt a shot after they scored in like the 55th minute against the 16th best team in the Premier League.
So somebody, I saw some good tweets, like just well thought out comments about this doesn't make FIFA or UEFA, the organizer of the Europa League, look exactly good, having the 16th and 17th place team within the English Football League. I do think that this is now essentially a cheat code. This is like if let's just say Newcastle misses out right on Champions League through the league. Well, they qualified for the Europa League. They are now substantially more in line with qualifying for the Champions League the year after than had them qualified for the Champions League and had to do it through the league again. Essentially, with the Champions League teams not dropping down to the Europa League, it is almost a guaranteed, with the vast difference between the English richness and the rest of Europe. I don't see how any English team that participates in the Conference League and the Europa League aren't guaranteed a spot at the very least in the semifinal. Like, it's going to take something like catastrophic for them not to make the semifinals in this. So I know it sounds like bitter grapes because we're discussing United and Spurs. But look, it's like BX said, but this is the discourse that we have to generally have online. Spurs get a trophy parade and they make Champions League.
War a trophy, war a Champions League, Mike.
War a trophy, war a Champions League. And okay, so the BX Schooner right now, he's saying we can't devalue European trophies. It's an interesting take because it's kind of like you said, Kelly. We're in that in between point where, like, I feel like I think in general people still view Europa League as a really prestigious ish
They view it
competition
like it was 3 or 4 years ago.
for years. Yeah, but it because of the rules change did factually take a major hit in competitiveness, but it's still viewed as a good trophy. Now, BX Gunner, I am pro trophies all over the place. When West Ham won the Conference League last season, I just laughed and said fair play to them. Fiorentina would have won it. I would have just said fair play to them. I am not here to hate on anybody winning the league, a title of any way, shape, or form. You play in the competition that you play on. I do think that if we as a club at Arsenal, if you are already kind of like, I don't trust Mikel Arteta, and let's say you trusted him going into the season, and after the last 2 seasons that we had, and we would have finished 7th and qualified for European trophies, there would be a large majority of people, even more so than right now, saying, why aren't we firing this fool? We've regressed. So it's kind of a tricky situation in which to be able to play a lesser European competition, you have to take a massive step back in the league. And as much as we could sit here and say we would like to lift the league, I don't think none of us would want to go to the hell that is 6th and 7th place in the league to qualify for Europa League. I hope all that rambling made any semblance of sense there, Kelly.
No, Mike,
as you would like to say, take the mic, sir.
Intellectually, you're 100% correct, and I think that's why, like, my reaction is more visceral towards the club, right? And so BX again, and this is a common thing. We can't devalue European trophies, and it's like, sure, but I think the issue is that Arsenal didn't win the Europa League when we were in it. Like, that's more the problem. Like, we choked. We were in a final against a pretty crappy Chelsea team in Baku, and we got absolutely fucking destroyed because by Emery, who is some people's gods on the internet for some reason still. Like, the issue is not winning the competitions when you're in it and when you're in a reasonable spot to win it. I think that's the larger things. The two, I think with any competition that you're in, what happened, but you can't change what happened before. You're in the position that you're in, right? You're in this position because of last year. When you're in it, no matter what competition you're in and you're advancing, you need to win it or bombing out really early. Those are the two things that people can't really tolerate. And I think that we're in this, like we've said this a couple different times, we're in this really bizarre, like, middle ground where we're really, really good. And so we get into the top things. But I think your and my consistent concern is that, like, yeah, we have really good coaching and some good players. We need more, and we won't do more because it's and you and I think are agreeing that it's a financial, like, the missions are basically, our concern with Arsenal right now is less about us not valuing the trophies. It's that we will spend down, or our ambition will be down to whatever the minimum level is that with which we qualify for that year. So, like, when our goal is to get back in the Europa League, well, okay, we're going to accumulate a team that can kind of largely just about be towards near the top for Europa League. So we got a chip, cheer, and chance. That's what we recruit to. Like, okay, we finished 2nd in the league. Okay, cool. Well, we just need to make sure that we have a team that is around top 4 again, so we have a chance. Okay, cool. We got in the Champions. We got to the quarterfinals. Okay, great. Our goal is to just about be back in the we want to make sure we keep quality sufficient to kind of, like, get a round or two in the knockout rounds and be kind of around there. We got to make sure that we get that. And I think that is I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, like, that is my frustration with how we operate, is that we go, okay, great, we're here. Let's stay about right here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
it's maximizing profits to the best of their ability. I say that this, like, you could call it gamble. Mm-hmm. I say it was a decision to. They saw how the season was playing out. Yep. They saw that top 4 was looking really good. Yep. We were in a good position in the Champions League, and I feel like they said essentially, we've maxed out profits this season. Why should we invest more? Let's wait until the summer. Now, we could be there's somebody screaming at their screen right now saying no, they really want to win and everything, and you guys are entitled to that theory. I'm simply saying with the manner in which they acted the past summer and acted in January, that is the current taste in my mouth. They could change it. Things are looking optimistic this summer under Berta, and we'll deep dive into that a little bit, in a different podcast or whatever, because he seems to be doing, if we have time, doing things a little bit different than Edu used to. But it's just Kelly and I, at least at the very least right now, we're feeling like they had an opportunity to buy a difference maker last summer, they didn't buy the difference maker. They had the opportunity to try to improve because we were within the Champions League and a quarterfinals at the time, to say, hey, and for everybody that said, hey, you can't win the league even if Watkins come in. Okay, maybe we don't win the league, but having a fucking forward during Real Madrid would have been nice. Having a forward versus PSG would have been nice. Yeah. So sure, you could have made the argument that being within Liverpool was too far away. And it was an interesting stat, by the way, that when we played them, had we won all the games leading up to them, because they had dropped points already, we would have been like 2 points away. So even the league thing was a weird thing. But let's just say the league was completely out of reach and they were too far ahead. But you're still within the Champions League final, or in the Champions League. And your reaction to that is like, no, we can't justify spending on a striker right now. It's just, I don't know. It's all recency bias, of course, but like it's really disheartening.
The goal was already accomplished. The point was to be in the Champions League. And with our point total, it means we were going to be in the knockouts. The point is not winning things. The point is being in the Champions League. And when you're in the Champions League, the idea is to get into the knockout rounds because it maximizes profit. And it's something that we could reasonably expect to do given our resources and talent as they exist. That's the problem. The goal is the biggest goal. And again, I've talked myself into these circles, and like, why does it bother me? It's because and again, like BX says too, we throw away domestic cups because we put ourselves in a position where we say, okay, we don't give a shit about the domestic cups because the most important, we are an elite club. So the most important thing for us, an elite club, is to go for it and try to win the Champions League and try to win the Premier League. Those are the two big trophies we're going after. And like, okay, great. So what are you going to do to win? It's like, well, we finished second last year and we're in the knockouts. Okay, what are you going to do to win? Well, we're second last year and we have largely the same team.
Yeah.
And we're in the knockouts. So like we're in it with a shot. Okay, what do you do to like improve your chances? Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
We need to be responsible stewards of our financial resources. Okay, cool. Like, what are you doing? We just did a series of questions and you said that you're right here. So how do you win it? We need to be financially responsible people. Mike, this is not an oligarchy. This is not an oil state. We need to be financially responsible. We can't spend like them. Okay, but you said you're going to like try to win it. No, hold on a second here. We are a self-sustaining club. Our goal is to go and put ourselves in a really good position. Are you going to maximize it? No. Hold on a second here. We are not an oil state. This is basically the argument that I've been having online for the last 2 years.
In circles over and over again. Yeah. It's frustrating. I look again, BX, I understand what you're saying about the domestic cups. I heard somebody just say we simply didn't win it because luck of the draw. And I'm like, well, you have to play a good team eventually. So just to dismiss, like we got knocked out of the last two FA Cups by City and Liverpool. So I feel like to simply say, well, like, how is it you want to compete with them in the league, but then you're like, well, we played them in the FA Cup. They're a tough team. We can't beat them. Like, dude, you shouldn't be that laid off. Like, I'm look, I know that I'm in the minority here. I don't like the idea when people are like, fuck it, it's just a League Cup. No, we
don't play in a lot of semifinals ever.
Well, here's my issue with it. We don't win enough to act in a manner in which we could be like, we have bigger fish to fry. Well, we haven't ate the tuna yet.
Yeah.
Stop acting like you know what I mean? We haven't done the league. We haven't done league title. We haven't done. I'm sorry, the League Cup. We haven't done the FA Cup in a very long time. So you don't get to be like, We're not in it. We have bigger fish to fry. We haven't won the Champions League ever. We haven't won the league in 20 plus years. I feel like that mentality is a little dismissive. I don't want to turn into the raise your standards guy, right? I don't want to be that guy. I'm just simply speaking of a source of frustration in which I've been fed progress, and I'm all on board with progress. And I'm still even said earlier today in a group that I share with you, I'm going to sit back and see how the summer plays. Zubimendi was a great start. I want to see how proactive they are.
They're treating us like this is a fucking shareholder meeting, and in like we're looking for a long term. They're acting like it benefits fans to remain largely have our returns and our financial projections be largely the same, and they're not going up. They're not top of the world, but they're really not going down that much either, you guys, and that's great. Like elite sport is we are surrounded by groups and people with unlimited money and unlimited ambition, which means that if you want to do a self-sustaining model, which again, Mike, you and I have said, this is self-imposed. This is one of the richest people in the entire world, who's married to one of the richest people in the entire world, who has one of the biggest sporting empires in the entire world. So like, I'm not having like Stan and Josh being these like plucky upstarts who are like fucking like we're talking about them like we're Brighton or Bournemouth or some fucking thing. Like the 7th richest club in the world, their 6th richest club in the world, whatever, 5th, something like that, in the top 10 for available resources and like ownership wealth after the people who just mill money out of the fucking ground. Like after those, we're kind of right there. So all of this is self-imposed. All this austerity that we've been fed has all been a measured approach to save our very, very rich owners money, right? And like people keep going and hearkening back. It's like, well, the Declan Rice, like we bought Declan Rice to get into the Champions League. That's why we paid $100 million for Declan Rice. Again, it's worked out really, really well. He's one of the best players in the world. We bought him to get. If we would have already been in the Champions League, we wouldn't have bought Declan Rice. We'd have bought somebody else. Fully 100%, we would have.
That's a big shout right there.
No, we would have. Would we? If we were not, got him to confirm our place firmly in the Champions League. That's why he's here. He's not here. He was not bought to win anything. He was probably told he was bought to win stuff, because otherwise he wouldn't be here. And he was probably flagged out to Arteta for that reason too. It's like, if can he help you win things? Yeah, that's great. But it's like there's too much of the like shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you hit the stars bullshit that's happening here, because we've had. And again, people will go, and this is me kind of losing my edge a little bit here, but like we have, since Declan Rice, we have shown an incapability of identifying and getting targets in that push us over the line to actually challenge for these things we claim to challenge for. And we have been unwilling to make pragmatic financial moves in the spirit of saving money for no other reason to better our positions, even in a down year. We are fully comfortable throwing away entire seasons to save what amounts to a very small amounts of money in a multi-billion-dollar sporting enterprise. There's nothing that leads, like, again, going into this season with Bird and everything, there's nothing that leads me to believe that we're going to do what we need to do. It's going to be about spending just enough and getting just enough to roughly stay where we are right now. That's all this is. And if we get the hope is that we get lucky and everybody stays fit, which they did last year and we still didn't fucking win anything. And maybe Miles Lewis-Skelly becomes the best defender in the world. All of this is predicated to save what amounts to a trivial amount of money for multi-billionaires. It's all they will put an astronomical amount of risk and burden on the existing players and manager in an effort to get away with spending a proportionally small amount of money. And I find that to be kind of revolting. And it's all I've seen for the last 2 years. And they're peddling us incompetence. I don't think it's incompetence. I think it's calculated. Like there are options in January, and they don't want to spend the money, and they didn't care that it probably would cost you the Champions League run, and they didn't care if that ended up putting our Champions League qualification in real threat. They don't care because it was a pragmatic financial decision. Because at its core, what this ownership and what this upper management, what this board does, is make pragmatic financial decisions that deliberately leave the team without enough to accomplish the big goals if we were actually, and I don't believe that we're in for the big goals. And I will never, ever predict that Arsenal win the Champions League or Premier League before a season ever again, because I don't think they're trying to. And that's what I
BX,
feel right now.
you got BX full support on that one. So
BX, I'm with you, brother.
Okay, so I'm not 100% there yet, and
I am there.
This is the only reason I'm going to say this now. I feel like what the club, the PR that they did, the reports that came out strong, like shortly after getting knocked out versus PSG, was the journalist started briefing saying that the club felt like they were in a stronger position in the summer because of the lack of spending in January, and they were going to place them in better position for target availability, target transfer fees, et cetera, PSR, another year of PSR, saving money and all this stuff. So they're in a strong financial situation in order to pull the trigger on something. Our Bros Ryan in the live chat says, I agree, Kelly, but I think Berta will change that. He's known for making big swings. Now, not to go full-blown transfer podcast on this podcast, and this is where I'm going to try to chime in with a little bit of blind positivity, if you will, just so that we don't end this on a fucking we're never going to win anything ever again kind of type of vibe, if you will. I like the names that we're being linked with. I believe that there's reason to believe that we are truly looking at Gyökeres. I think there's truly a reason to believe that we're looking at Sesko. I made this comment because we've been discussing, like, we've been seeing Liverpool links, and we saw that what's the good German kid from Bayer Leverkusen? Wirtz?
Florian Wirtz.
Wirtz, thank you, was linked to Liverpool, and everybody was like, oh no. And I was kind of like, hey guys, we can't have them all. But, so if we finish the transfer window with insert very nice left wing here, because we've been linked to so many, insert Zubimendi, Sesko, Gyökeres, defensive, it changes the perspective going into next season. Now you could be on the other side of the fence. BX Schooner just said a few comments up, said, hey, we could have Yamal and Mbappe, and he doesn't think Mikel Arteta is going to get us over the line.
That's silly. I don't. That's too much. Yeah.
Oh, so that's too much for you. Okay, so I'm going to say this. See, this is what I love, because everybody's like temperament is different, and this is what I say, and I've always said this for a really long time. Even some of the most like craziest comments I've seen, fair play to however the fuck you want to feel. Yeah. Because that is reality. Like I like BX feels that way. I'm not gonna fight him over it, because I'm sure I've been in some fucking hole like that, probably with Wenger a few years ago, where I'm like, fucking, I don't care who comes to this club, nothing's gonna ever happen. So everybody's entitled to feel the way that they feel, but I'm hanging my hat on this summer, Kelly. Foolishly, maybe, but with the inclusion of Berta, who is kind of known to have a strict approach. We're reading reports that his kind of thing is using media to throw people off scent, and it seemingly he likes to talk to multiple candidates at once. All reports suggested back in the day when Edu was here, we were like, we're focused on this player. We don't care if the lawn is on fire. We don't care if the shed is on fire. We're currently focused on this cabinet, and this cabinet is the only thing we're going to fix in the household. Berta is kind of like, I'm going to fix this cabinet, but I also called 911 and notified them about the fire over there. And I also notified this. So that's my way of describing how this man operates. He seemingly has his hands in every cookie jar, in every position that thus far we need to try to get in there. So I'm hoping that we'll go down this path and we do bring in some high quality ceiling raising talent. And if that happens, if we have like the golden goose, transfer season, and we have like, I'm just going to throw names out there, and you guys don't have to agree whether you like these players or not. I'm just saying big names like Rodrigo. Let's say we get Rodrigo, Sesko, Zubimendi, and attach a defender of some sort, a left back, because all our left backs are leaving.
Joel Hato, say he's the
Hato,
in vogue, versatile young defender out there.
Okay, if we buy 4 to 5 players, another one in attack, and then if we have another season under Mikel Arteta, and I feel like we're nowhere fucking closer, I think I would be far more closer to what BX Schooner feels right now.
Yep,
is what I could say. I do, and it's always so fucking hard, because as my old boss used to say in baseball term, you're only as good as your last at bat.
Yeah.
our last at bat sucked.
Yep.
And things went horrible. And with the add-in and the piling on of the fact that Spurs won a trophy,
Yep.
I think what it is, Kelly, it's difficult to separate and add so much context, all in one fucking season. We need to add the context of Liverpool not having a lot of injuries. Add the context that we had a shitload of injuries. Add the context that we got fucked over by the refs.
Yeah.
Add the context that Europa League is not the league that we used to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've added so much context throughout the last 2 seasons that even the most optimistic Gooner is starting to feel, I think, like, fuck, dude, win. And when you see the club act like they did in January, as you pointed out, it gave us well, that's not really what we're here for type of vibe.
Yep.
And that was a fucking knife in the back, dude. It felt like a flipping betrayal. So, look, Kelly, that wasn't really a question. That was more of a ramble. We're nearing the end of the podcast. We agreed we're going to keep it short and sweet, especially without Chris. We don't want to get too deep into the whole transfer thing because obviously Chris is not here, and that man loves talking about some fees and some players and some links.
And Christian actually does research, and you and I just like shoot from the hip, gut, or heart, like depending on what day it is. So like I think we need him here to reasonably articulate what's happening with the transfer when like slap us back down to earth when I start crying and you start mispronouncing everything. Like we need him to tether both of us to reality and facts, I think, before we do any transfers. And again, there will be lots of time to do that, and I think we'll need to do it because I anticipate a very, very long and fruitless pursuit of Alexander Isak, followed by a loaning of that whatever Chris Wood's backup is for Nottingham Forest on the last day of the season because he's an Arsenal fan. That's my prediction. And Ethan Winieri being pitched to us as a center forward also.
Okay, so you're great for you because your expectations were very low, so you most definitely would not be let down.
Never say never, buddy.
Yeah, never say never. I had a question because I completely forgot I was going to ask this because a good friend of mine asked me, BX Kuhn, I want to know yours too because you mentioned that it was the highlight of the season. Beating Madrid in Champions League in the quarterfinals or Europa League this season, what do you think is a bigger accomplishment? How are you feeling about what would you? Yeah, BX, that one's for you because I saw the comment that you dropped in there. But like,
is the flips? Is it
would you?
Either,
would
you
like
losing to Real Madrid?
No, it's just like so the feeling and the vibes that we had beating Madrid in the Champions League.
Probably beating Madrid, honestly. Probably beating Madrid, I think, is probably better vibes than this rendition of the Europa League. But I mean, we would be if we won the Europa League, even if we had a horseshit season and we finished 7th and we swept through the worst Europa League in the history of the world and won, we'd still be drunk and celebrating that right now because it's a European trophy. So like, if we're tethering this to reality, it's a bigger deal beating Real Madrid in the Champions League knockout stages than it is to win the shittiest Europa League ever. But as far as the vibes go, it'd probably be equal or better to actually win a European trophy because we've been doing this podcast. We've won one trophy and we've comically flunked out of all the other ones. So we're like 1 for 30 since we've been doing this podcast. It'd be fun to actually win the last game of a season with it being meaningful for something. So
see, I love how BX is firm in his manner of thinking because he said, "Hey," he just simply responded, "We've never won Europa."
It's so BX. I love it because you like. I keep thinking of like you should be a Serie A guy because like different teams win the 800 trophies in Serie A. Like different teams win Serie A, and then especially since Juve has like been slapped back down to earth, and like there's the Coppa Italia, or like if you like, there's in Spain there's the Copa del Rey and all these other like cups and everything. So I feel like you're not doing yourself a favor by being a fan of English football, where it's like. There's a very strict internal hierarchy of the trophies, and most of the same teams win. I suppose that's why it hurts him more this year, though, is because different teams actually won.
I think that's a good point.
So, I mean, if it was just City winning everything with a quadruple again, I think it'd be a lot easier to take than like these mid-table teams going in. Like again, Newcastle with their fucking oil state owners doing an open top bus parade for the League Cup is quite something. If we did that, they'd still be shitting down our throats online if we did that.
I like the back and forth. We got Ryan says, "Where are we now? Winning the Europa League is a failure."
I think being the Europa League is a failure for sure. If you're already in it, you might as well win it. But like getting there is quite a failure. Yeah,
you could only play who you have in front. I'll say this. I think I'm inclined to say if we're still finishing second in the league and winning Europa League, I'm inclined to say I'll take that. But there's no way, shape, or form in which I feel like I literally, BX, you're with me here, buddy. Don't go off the deep end. Don't say that you are okay losing 21 games in a league season and finishing 18th. That surely can't be better than our season, BX. Come back. Don't go too far, dude.
My really solid opinion of that is if you find yourself in a tournament like that, you have to win it, especially when it's just when it's so far beneath your budget and your reasonable expectations. United and Spurs needed to win that given the level of competition they were playing against. That they found themselves in that competition all was a massive failure and underperformance of the talent and the management they have, frankly. So, like, if you find yourself in a substandard competition, the only way that you can prove that you're as good or better than it is to win it. I think if we found ourselves in the Europa League, the expectation would be that we'd beat either of those teams by about 3 clear goals. But I will say that, like, PSG probably going to win the Champions League, probably the best club team in the world, especially in the last 6 seasons or the last 6 months. So, like, anybody you can see the accomplishment as useful and as a nice accomplishment and something creditable to actually win the thing. But, like, you can't compare the quality of competition and the quality of the teams that like, Arsenal beat, like, 5 teams better than anybody that Spurs played. But it doesn't matter because, again, it's like it doesn't matter because if you're the fastest swimmer in the dipshit pool, you're still the fastest swimmer rather than being, like, the 4th fastest swimmer in, like, the elite pool. So, like, I was going to use a word that we can't use anymore regarding talking about the pool. But, like it's like...
Okay, get it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I'm at. But I agree with BX at this point to just, like, put, like, one of these little, like shush fingers on the lips of people who are like, war a trophy. You just got to win a trophy, even if it's the League Cup. He's like, yeah, you guys want to live a trophy. We're trying to win the big stuff, but since you want us to win a trophy, at least we won the League Cup. Here you go. Like, there's something with that. But I do agree that, like, I think for a lot of us fans and our club, we have because of what we have done in the medium-term past, we have an outsized view of ourselves and our standing within the club, and we basically have not been anything relevant in the internet age. So a lot of these, the FIFA Ultimate Team virgins from Pakistan that drive the internet conversation have never seen a good Arsenal before, and that's why they love PSG and City so darn much, because the point is the bans, and we have not been goods in the internet bans era. The quadruple national online video game stuff. Like we haven't been good with that since, like, the GoldenEye 64 days and
all the good, like, days.
Yeah, your rich Nigerian kid on PS whatever it is now does not know what that means. So
fair enough. Kelly, let's wrap up.
That's probably going to cut me off now.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, Kelly. Too much drinking for no. I already
probably too much
beer, but no. We discussed this. It was gonna be short and sweet podcast. We will expand a little bit more with Christian, maybe on the way back. Maybe it's gonna be just 1 week wait this time around because we do play the last game of the season. So interesting chat. Our Ryan BX.
Yep.
We had a Manchester United fan pay us a visit just to put congrats Spurs. So man, dude.
What a weird
day. The United fan. Look, hey, thanks for joining us first and foremost. But it's interesting because, like, we could probably take banter of a lot of supporters this season, but, like, I don't know how you're a United fan and have an opinion on Arsenal right now, because they're going down a really dark path, having lost out on Champions League again, and it's going to be ugly for them.
Their owner is legitimately terrible too, which is really funny.
Oh, they're bad, dude.
They're real. Like,
we need Betis to beat Chelsea because I won't be able to watch anything. You know what's funny about not watching anything, BX? I kind of have told my wife that the greatest hate watch in history was going to happen.
Yeah,
referring to the Europa League. And I fell asleep, and I woke up and I just saw like the last 30 seconds. I checked the result and I'm like, well, I'm not tuning in. And my wife goes, I thought you were going to hate watch a team. And I go, well, based on the online discourse and the stats that I'm seeing, I would have fallen asleep anyways, with or without the game. So
it was objectively, and I'm somebody who watches like the Scottish Premier League when there's nothing else on. It was one of the worst football games ever. They're both aggressively dreadful. Like the only thing about that is that they're massive English teams. If that was on its own merit, that barely deserved to have like 20 people at the park watching it. They're fucking awful. Even the goal that Brendan Johnson scored, it was a hopeful cross that was like bobbled hysterically and basically volleyballed back to Brendan Johnson by Luke Shaw, who still exists. Like, what happened? He's starting a final. Manchester United doesn't have a better fullback to start a final than Luke Shaw in 2025. He basically punches it back to Brendan Johnson, who like hilariously lashes at it, and because Onana is terrible and 2 feet tall, it just kind of like floats inside the post, and it was the game, the terrible goal that terrible game of football deserved. Like it was one of those matches where you like start looking at your phone and you don't even realize, and you look up, it's like, oh, I've been looking at my phone for like 10 minutes because nothing has happened.
But my highlight of the day was a clip of Mark Goldbridge saying, I would rather have a dildo as goalie than Onana. That was probably so. Go look for him.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I'd rather have a dildo. It's like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so no, he was literally
an excuse for years.
No, he was literally said, I would rather have a dildo at goal than Onana, because at least the dildo would move and make an attempt. Like, I love Mark too. He's fucking wonderful.
Yeah, Mark has definitely found his niche, just hating everything and everybody right now. I like him way better than when Manchester United was winning stuff. So
fair enough. And with that, we will end the stream. Kelly, you can find him on Twitter's at South Metro AFC. I've been Mike Hers, your host. Live chat, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course YouTube, where you're listening to us right now. If you haven't thus far, make sure you subscribe and like. Kelly's doing the Gyökeres thing. Now we could make sure that he's not going to Manchester United, so that's a plus. Later. Catch y'all.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketchia, it's in, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.